Hi everyone, Darren Hunter here, and this is the Outsourc PM podcast show with, of course, the one and only Michael Sands, our virtual assistant expert. Now, Michael, I'm really excited about this, and you were too. We're going to talk about the 9 keys to effective delegation. You can't have a conversation on effective productivity and effective task and time management without having that D word in their delegation.
Yeah, it's one of the things that we see time and time again with people when they go to recruit physical staff in the office or when they go to outsource tasks and they want to get the task done efficiently and effectively. But there are key elements of when they go to delegate that are missed, and it just sets up for failure. So I guess, this is a good strategy session to go through over what you need to do to make sure you can delegate successfully.
And I think these are awesome keys that you've come up with. The key that you said there was effective and efficiently delegating tasks. A lot of people that delegate tasks and do them completely wrong and end up with problems like, I'd rather just do it myself, all those sorts of things. And it just causes such a bottleneck, doesn't it? And it causes burnout. If we're not effectively delegating everyone, you can't get to higher, more dollar productive tasks. And you're going to burn out if you're just going to not delegate.
It's also too like some managers, department managers, how they explain things. The other person doesn't understand or doesn't resonate with them. They haven't been clear enough, and it could just be like the leadership style, or they don't know how to delegate. But time and time again, I say, hey Darren, I need you to write the email up to such and such and ask them for booking something in. And you're like, okay, great. What am I asking for? When do you need this by? What's the outcome of this? All these details are missed. And you got to be so switched on. You got to be so clear with how you want it done, because if you want it done better than how you do it, or worst case, the same as how you do it, be clear, right?
Yeah.
Like the other person knows. So yeah, we've got a few keys here to go through. And
so in the reality, with the people that we're talking to in property management offices, who are the typical people that can delegate and to who?
Well, you've got either the managers that are wanting team members to do certain tasks, either their tasks or taking on new tasks. And then you've also got team members, Darren, that are showing other team members how they do the tasks that they are now going to be doing. Right. So it's really important that every team member knows how to delegate a task effectively, as well as everyone running the department who are assigning tasks to team members. It's got to be uniformed, and everyone needs to know how to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would, if we weren't practicing these things ourselves, Michael, we would be in such a bad place. And IGT and Teams by Design wouldn't be able to operate on the levels that we do unless we're delegating so much stuff to our team of people. I mean, we've got executive virtual assistants, we've got virtual assistants as well, we've got marketing assistants, we've got all sorts of assistants doing that. Of course, they're based in the Philippines, so we've got a very big virtual assistants team. But in an office, it could be a property manager to a property manager assistant, certainly a property manager to a virtual assistant. It could be a boss to their executive assistant. But delegation is really important, and it really comes down to this very, very simple principle. If you can get someone else to do that same task at a much less cost per hour than what you can do, you should be delegating that all day, every day, and be willing to pay that amount. If something we did in our last podcast episode, it's going to cost $50 an hour for a property manager to do something, that's the full cost, base salary, plus all the pluses with superannuation, work cover, all of the operational costs on top of that. It's about $50 an hour. And if you can get delegated to a virtual assistant who's costing a third of that, go and listen to that last podcast episode, the cost of an employee and the cost of a desk. You need to be getting good at the art of delegation. So Michael, let's get this underway. What's the first effective key for delegation?
Well, the first one where you'd start is know the task or the tasks that need to be delegated, right? Know which ones. Don't be vague. If you've got 10, 3, 5, know which ones. As you know, not every task can be delegated, especially if you're delegating to outsourced abroad, like in the Philippines. You're not going to outsource something physical to them. Work out the importance of the task, whether it's something that can only be done by senior management, like income producing customer service. Generally, Darren, the start place would be the admin tasks, right? The non-income producing tasks. So know the task and be very clear about which ones you want to delegate.
Yeah, cool. And what's number 2?
So the second one, moving on from that, you've got to work out, play to people's strengths, right? Work out which team member could absorb the work and also give it the best opportunity to be delegated effectively. I say this all the time. If you've got a creative task, Darren, you're not going to give that to your accountant to work out a social media strategy and calendar. So make sure you're giving the task and delegating it to the right team member. Each team member you have should be assessed for what their strengths and weaknesses are. Some people resonate better with certain tasks, be that analytical, be that creative. So work out which team member is going to pick up the task more effectively and efficiently. Some tasks require phone skills and some are just admin. So Darren, as an example with us, we work out who are best at numbers, who's best at attention to detail and general admin work, right? And that's how we pick who's going to do what tasks.
Absolutely. I think we had a situation recently where, Michael, we needed someone to be picking up the phone and promoting our conference and selling tickets. And so we found a person skilled for that. But we wouldn't want to give that job to our executive assistant because they would find that task quite daunting and confronting and might scare them off.
Yeah, it's also finding the right personality type. We can push people so far, but when you play to people's strengths, you might have 10 tasks and you got someone on your team and they excel at 4 of them. They totally own it. I would give them those 4 tasks and then find someone else to handle the other 6, focus on the strengths. I guess moving on from that one to the next point, number 3, would be defining the actual task and what the outcome is. A lot of people, when they hand a task over, they don't let the person know, what does this task mean? Like, what's the overall objective and outcome that this task is going to achieve once it's completed? So each task needs to have a clearly defined outcome, including how long your expectation is to do that task. Might take you an hour to do a task, Darren. Someone who's doing it for the first time, maybe an hour and 15, an hour and a half. But the expectation on that task is that they complete it within this time frame. The first time someone tries a task, obviously, like I said, it's going to take a bit longer to do it, but explain to the person why it's important this task is completed. And it could be receiving rent, it could be doing arrears, it could be, running the maintenance to the business. It could be doing the leases and the lease renewals, explaining the accuracy to the date, how you want the starting date and the ending date to be, why that is so important and why we can't afford to make a mistake with things like dates and dollars. But once you've got that clearly defined and you've given it to someone that understands that type of task, you're setting yourself up for success. When you look at that next stage, right? So
let me just jump in here, Michael. That clearly defining tasks, I found Loom, that's LOOM, is so good to very quickly delegate complex tasks with total clarity. I haven't come across a better tool than that.
Yeah, Loom is excellent. And what we get our team to do, when the clients send us their Loom video or Zoom video, we now get our team members who have to complete a course on process workflow mapping. So if you give a video to the team member, they then have to put that onto an actual document of a workflow process so that if somebody else needs to step in and help or take over, that it's clearly, methodically put down on paper, something that's transferable, right? The other thing now, number 4, it's really important to provide all the resources. So if they need to be given access, logins to certain software, email, you've got to provide that to them. Don't be afraid to give specific training, even if the person has done the role previously. Make sure that they are on the same page that you are. You've got to give them every opportunity to succeed in the task. Don't set them up for failure. Right? Give them every resource they need to do the job. The 5th one from that, like moving on from there, is making sure you've got clear lines of communication. Now, Darren, we see this in offices where like a manager would give someone a task and say, hey, I need you to do this. And then there's silence. They just they can see the person in the other room or they got them on a Zoom and they they get on with their job, right? They get on with their day-to-day, they push on with what they're doing. And, when someone has a question, they'll say, look, I can't help you right now. I'll get back to you later on. You got to make sure that if you're giving someone a task, let them know that, hey, if you need me and I'm in a meeting, I want you to start doing this other task. Or I want you to move on from where you're stuck and start doing something else, so the team member doesn't sit there idle. Right. But if you can make sure that you can give the person the opportunity to communicate, respond back quickly, respond back with detail, and like what you do, Darren, sometimes is you do a video message or a voice message or a Loom message, which should be more powerful than just a couple of words. Make it easy for someone to ask you questions.
I avoid giving typed instructions as often as I can, because I can, for my own time management, I can give very, very clear instructions very quickly with Loom, because with a video recording, I can show it. Obviously, a Loom video recording records what you see, records what you say. And so I can very quickly bang that out. Loom very quickly loads it to the internet, gives me a link within seconds, and I can then drop that into my Google Tasks and assign that. I just also want to say, aside from that, it's developing the trust between you and your virtual assistant. You need to have a good, clear trust between you. It takes time, friendship there, that they can trust you and you can trust them, which means you can then say to them, hey, it's really important. If you don't understand something, you cannot take the next step. You must let me know. It's not, I know it's, and people need to understand cultural, the culture within the Philippines is that people are professional, they're polite to their own detriment. And so they will nod their head up and down that they understand something when they don't, because they don't want to disappoint you, not realizing they're making the job difficult for themselves and for you by not putting their hand up and say, hey, I still need help in understanding this. So to get past that, you're just going to have the trust with the person and say, hey, you've got to tell me, otherwise we're going to have this problem and this problem and this problem, and really talk about the consequences of what not understanding something can do and cause a bigger problem. So they get a full understanding that it's much easier to put their hand up and say, hey, I don't understand. But also, Michael, what I found with this, giving clear lines of communication, because I'm doing so much task delegation, rapid fire to my staff, using Loom and tasks like that, I've got to have a meeting with them. And once a week, we have a task meeting where I simply just go and I look at what I call the reds. I only talk about the reds, and they're the dates of the task that I've set a date on a task with a guideline to when it needs to be finished. Any of those dates that are yesterday and before that come up red, and I just talk about those. And it gives me that touch point with our staff. We can talk about the tasks there. They feel like they're heard, any problems here. And it just keeps me, just in touch with the pulse of our staff by having those weekly task meetings and to go through any issues.
Yeah, I mean, it's important to have those catch-ups. And like we advise our clients that every day they should be doing a video catch-up with their team member, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, whatever, just to kind of touch base and make sure you've got that visibility there. I guess, and probably moving on to the next point, number 6 is you got to allow for failure. Like you have to allow for someone to make reasonable mistakes. I find in an office, Darren, like let's say, back when I had the office there, someone would make a mistake and I would be like doing my work and I'd be like, oh, okay, don't worry. I'll help you in a minute, or I'll come back to you. Let me finish doing what I'm doing. And you go and help them and then you move on. But I find like when you outsource, if someone makes a mistake, people are really like, they're less forgiving. They're like, oh, they made a mistake. You got to allow the same level of forgiveness that you would someone in your office, right? People are going to make mistakes. And when we did a poll in our IGT in a circle a while ago, what are the most common mistakes that a property manager in your office will make? It's like they don't return phone calls, or their attention to detail when entering in tenancy details, or they've made a mistake when entering an invoice number, or, all these really, really common, super common mistakes that humans make. And then I find that when a VA makes a mistake exactly like that, oh, I can't believe it, incompetence. But that's not the case. It's just that we treat people differently when we can't see them. So you got to allow, when you are delegating the task, you got to allow for failure and reasonable mistakes. Failing a task, making a mistake, may also show someone that the task can be done better or more efficiently. Like if someone's following your step by step and they make a mistake, it may not be the best way for the task to be done, or they've just made an actual mistake. Acknowledge it, let them learn from it, write it down. I would always add mistakes into like an FAQ, how to avoid something. But even the most experienced people make mistakes. Dennis, he makes mistakes. And we'll find out if he listens to this podcast, right? Dennis, if you're listening to this podcast, let everyone know what mistakes you make from time to time. But don't have the mindset that as soon as your VA makes a mistake, they become a third-party contractor. They are part of your team. They're part of your family. So, and I also find too, when you make a mistake, well, to err is human, but you make a mistake, you learn from it.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, let's move on. You've got the next one here is being patient.
Yes, I guess like with everyone, you got to be patient. And this comes down to personality too, Darren. Like some people don't have the patience to be understanding. They just, it could be like we see like a lot of the business owners that are sales focused. They don't have any time for errors or mistakes or patience. It's either, I need this now, help me now. Why hasn't this been done now? But if we go back to the other points on delegation, if you have an understanding of how long something will take to do, then you got to be understanding that it is going to take that amount of time. Now, we use time tracking software and we can see how long tasks take, but a lot of offices don't actually do that. They don't actually see how long their teams spend on certain tasks. They just kind of give enough rope. Allow your team member time to become comfortable with the task. There is that time to work out that the task is gelling. Don't micromanage. So don't give a task and then, Darren, you okay? You okay, Darren? Darren, you okay? Darren, I can't see what you're doing. Darren, I saw on your screen, allow them time to become familiar and do the task. Like I said before, if someone makes an error, have an error logbook. You're not trying to say, hey, Darren, you're making this error repetitiously. Darren, this is the task you did before. This is the error point that you got to. This is how you can do it if you reach this error point, right? It sounds crazy, write an error log report, but it saves you time, right? It's a reference point that someone can go back to before they come to you and say, hey, I've got a problem. But
you've come up with the term time banking.
Yeah, time banking we use, it takes you 1 hour to do a particular task. Might take you 10 hours to train somebody on that task. After the 10 hours of them doing that task on their own, you now have 1 hour a day back of time to focus on income producing and customer service. Got to remember too, like you're delegating this task so that you or someone else in your team can focus on high level tasks. If you're giving a task to a VA, they're generally low to medium level tasks. So you can do the most important. Don't focus on, they've made a mistake, I'm going to take this task back. No, show them where they went wrong and how they can do it right the next time so that you can get back on and focus on the high income producing tasks, right? If you focus on all the low dollar producing tasks, like Darren was talking about before, $50 an hour is that average cost for a property manager to do a task. Have them focusing on income producing, right? Let your admin do admin. But I think that everyone should have an errors report, like in form of an FAQ.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's move on. Sharing feedback, point number 8.
I think it's really important that we talk about sharing feedback because we see a lot of feedback given as one directional. Darren, you did this task. Yeah, I was okay. I was happy with it. Next time, do it like this or try this. What you want to encourage with any team member is to share the feedback. So yes, share your feedback, how you thought the task went and what you'd like to see next time, but have the team member share their feedback on maybe how you delegated the task, what the task objective was, how they felt the task went, what do they think could be done differently next time, if there's any suggestions there, right? Because they're doing the task. And again, they might be experienced and an expert in their field. Listen to what they have to say. It also avoids disgruntled or, if someone isn't happy or they're sitting on something that they're not happy with, let them voice it, share their concern. That is the best time to do it. And share feedback regularly and consistently. Don't wait for like a weekly meeting or a monthly meeting to kind of go over feedback. Once somebody's done the task that you've delegated to them, get some live feedback, because why wait? Why wait if they've done an error for talk to them 7 days later about it? Right? Get on it straight away.
All right. Well, number 9, you're going to love them. Love makes the world go round. And it's certainly when it comes to delegation, it's the oil on the cogs.
Yeah, don't be afraid to shower praise on people. Like, give people recognition. And even if they're struggling, let them know that you're there to support them. Just because you can't see them doesn't mean they don't want to be praised or recognized. And I think sight unseen normally means that they do lose some of that attention. So make sure, even if you need to diarize it in your diary to shower praise on someone, put it in there. You know, diarize those special love times, Darren. Now, I've got some simple do's and don'ts, right? Just simple. And if you were to kind of break all this down and just take these tips away for the do's and don'ts, then fantastic. But what you do want to do is make sure you allow space to learn, right? Really important that whoever you delegate tasks to, allow them space to learn. Second thing is to communicate effectively. I know we spoke about communication before, being clear. Make sure you communicate effectively. Third thing is to treat your team member as part of your team family. Give them the respect, the love, be courteous. They'll do the same, but you have to do that. They're the 3 do's. Now, the 3 don'ts when delegating: don't micromanage. You're going to lose the team member. They're going to lose faith in you for micromanaging. Don't ignore them. Do not ignore them. Make sure that you respond when they've got questions in an adequate and reasonable time frame. Don't speak poorly or down to them. This is for someone in your office or someone out of your office. Like, do not speak lower to anybody. Very, very important. So they're the 3 do's and the 3 don'ts for you to take away. All right. If you live by that, you're going to have a good working relationship with your team member.
So, Michael, I think we've really gone through the 9 keys of effective delegation, particularly, in our context by using virtual assistants. If people are thinking about hiring a virtual assistant, just want to talk to you, maybe they've got some mindset issues around it. What's the best thing that they can do to reach out to you? How can they get in contact?
Yeah, just go to teamsbydesign.com, contact us, drop us a message, and we will book a time in to catch up with you.
Yeah. And for 30 different tasks that can be easily delegated to a virtual assistant, so you're not doing them in the office, with your very expensive $50 an hour property managers in the office. And of course, go to our last podcast for the cost of that and how we broke that down. Just go to teamsbydesign.tasks.com. That's teamsbydesign.tasks.com for that list of 30 tasks. So, Michael, another really good podcast to add to our collection.
Fantastic. Yeah, these have been good ones. So I hope everyone gets a lot out of them, and we're definitely loving sharing the content.
Cool. All right, everyone, take care, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Bye.